It's time to go through the diffs on this thing. Time to do some Dynalube RC grease. Going to get into the front diff. Going to get into the planetary that's up underneath there. Going to open up that rear end. Time to grease this thing up. I've removed the 6 screws holding the gear case cover on. Let's go ahead and get that up and see if there's any grease in there. It took a little bit of work, a little extra fingers, but I did get it up. And there's your differential for the front end. It does have some grease in it, which is good, but it also has some sand. I mean, granted, I've kind of been raising hell with it in the sand, but that looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can get that out and get that thing cleaned up and coated with some Dynalube. As you can see, I've got the diff out of the truck. It is quite beefy. Nice big bearings, I like that. It was quite involved. I had to take out quite a bit of stuff to make this happen. Yeah, just going through there, it did not work out because of the chassis. You can see the pinion gear again. Yeah, it definitely requires a little bit of effort, but that's not that big of a deal. It's just screws all over the place. Yep. I have seen a few guys try to say that the gears inside the UDR are the same size as the X-Max. No, they are not. UDR, X-Max. There is quite a difference between these two gears. I mean, there's a really big difference. They're just beefy. Same design. The teeth look nice and beefy. Same with those. This is actually a 6S X-Max diff. So, but still, it's the same size as the 8S one. Just the 8S has got a better material. But anyway, as you can see, it is not as big as the 8S X-Max gear. While the front end is apart and I've got the front diff in my hand, I'm going to open up the rear end, go ahead and use the Dynalube on it, but more importantly, I want to see if this will actually fit in here, because I wouldn't mind having a differential in the back. I mean, the spool is working pretty good, but having a rear diff option would be kind of nice. The rear end is a lot easier to get at than the front. Wow, much easier. I've got the rear end out. As you can see, it also collects sand and dirt. Axles are nice and beefy, but this sand and dirt getting in here, that could be kind of an issue, really. I mean, when you need your gears to not have, you know, sand grinding things away. Wow. That's kind of disappointing, really. I'd rather have those be a little bit cleaner. I mean, granted, I've been in the sand, been raising hell with it, but still, that is really dirty. And just by looking at the diffs, that's got a smaller bearing. Their ring gear, pinion gear are probably the same, but smaller bearings. This uses an axle spline. These did not just pull out. So, I mean, looks like part of it'll fit. Maybe Traxxas will make a legit rear diff for this truck. That would actually be pretty nice. There's the front of the rear end taken apart. You can see the planetary unit right there. You can see oil all inside of it. At least that part looks nice and clean. That's a good thing. So I'm going to open up the planetary, see what that's got inside of it. Well, there is the rear axle planetary, all in pieces. I gotta admit, it's actually built pretty darn good here. I like this. I was kind of worried about this being a major weak link, but maybe not. And at least that part was clean, just a little bit oily, which is actually a good thing, especially for these, because you got a drive shaft turning 9 to 1. So there's a lot of reduction here. So I'm gonna put it back together, clean it up, put it back together with some Dynalube, clean all this up, clean the dirt out of there, which that's really annoying. But get all this cleaned up and put it back together. I'm gonna add some Dynalube into the gears right here and some into the cavity right here. That way, hopefully it'll make its way back into the gears and kind of flow a little bit. This isn't the thickest of grease, so it should flow. There it is, all cleaned up, ready to go back in. You can see the extra grease right there. That should sling out into the cavity and hopefully work its way back into the gears as the truck runs. I'm going to put the other side of the gear case on and add my Dynalube, and this thing should be ready to go back in the axle. And there's the rear end gears. They are greased up. There's extra grease here, and it's here for a reason. This grease is going to sling off the ring gear, and it's going to stick to the outside case of the axle housing. When it does that, when this axle housing gets sand in it, hopefully it will stick the sand and keep it out of the ring and pinion. That's what I'm hoping for. But yeah, in some cases when the clearances are tight, this is way too much grease. In this case, it's got a giant open cavity, so that's all just going to sling off and stick to the case, and like I said, hopefully catch the sand. The whole sand being in the disc is kind of puzzling. I mean, Traxxas did the little ridges that lock into place to help seal the diff and all that, but for some reason sand still gets in there. And like I mentioned earlier, that could end up being a problem with this truck. I want to show you guys this nice steel support piece. It goes right into here, and it ties your whole front bulkhead diff assembly to the chassis and all together. It's a really nice beefy piece, and it's something you won't see when you're just simply looking at the truck. There's the front diff. And yep, I just added a bunch of grease right on top. This way it'll sling off and catch that sand, just like the rear. There isn't really as much room in the front diff as there is the rear, but there's still plenty for that grease to sling off and hit the inside of the diff case. Front end is together, rear end is together. Time to get into this. And there we have the pinion gear and center diff gear. Let's go ahead and dig a little deeper. And let's open this up. Alright. Not too bad in there. I like it. So it appears if I'm going to remove the transmission, I've got to take the entire front end apart again. I'd rather not do that. I don't see any sand built up anywhere. No piles of sand. No garbage of any kind, really. So I'm just going to add some Dynalube to the planetary. Clean the case up a little bit, which is fine inside, really. The dust was just outside. And put this back together. To get the lube in there, I just simply put it right around the outside. You can see the gears moving. So that's all I did. I just put some right through there. Everything is nice and lubed up, so that should be good to go. I got it back together. I'm going to put the wheels and tires body on this thing and take it to the track and see what it's got. Oh, that was nice.
Oh.
So the track time was actually pretty fun with this truck. It soaked up a lot of the bumps, the whoops and all that. It just absorbed them. Very nice. The scale aspect of the suspension, the way it works is just awesome. The disc did feel a little bit cooler, so that's a great thing. And I'm still happy with the truck. Thank you guys for watching.